Jesuits in the world whose succession and multitude must overreach the practices of England, cheerfully to carry the cross you shall lay upon us, and never to despair your recovery, while we have a man left to enjoy your Tyburn, or to be racked with your torments, or consumed with your prisons. The expense is reckoned, the enterprise is begun. It is of God. It cannot be withstood. Why did these early Jesuits take England so seriously? They knew what was at stake. This great Catholic nation could be lost or gained. It was not sure which way things were going to go at the outset of the reign of Queen Elizabeth, but it soon became manifest which way actually they would. As it happens, the great intellectual Edmund Campion had an encounter with that queen in Oxford. He was 26 years old at the time. He was an accomplished scholar, a gifted teacher, a superb orator, and obviously a natural leader among the brightest men at the university. So, Queen Elizabeth encountered him when she made a formal visit to Oxford in the summer of 1566. Before the royal party left, Campion was visited privately by none other than Lord William Cecil, the Queen's principal political advisor, and by the Earl of Leicester, who was rumoured to be on the verge of marriage to the 33-year-old Queen. Both promised a brilliant career. But there was a problem. Campion actually was on the way to the Anglican priesthood. He had taken the oath of supremacy, declaring Elizabeth to be the supreme head of the Church in England. And he'd been ordained a deacon with Anglican orders. But he had lingered in philosophical studies as long as possible before turning to the study of the Fathers, as if there were questions he preferred not to face. And in the Fathers, he discovered what he must have suspected: that the Church of Elizabeth and Cecil was not the Church of St. Augustine of Canterbury, King St. Edward the Confessor, and St. Thomas à Becket. Those English lights of old. Nor was it the church of the ancient Greek and Roman fathers. Because of his frank search for truth and his candid disposition, he discussed his questions and his findings with everybody. But this was the wrong time to develop Catholic sympathies. One must either be loyal or disloyal. Loyal opposition was a refinement not yet invented. William Shakespeare, around the same period, kept a low profile, but his beliefs come through loud and clear in his plays. And we have his signature in the English College in Rome, so we know where he took refuge for a while. And when he died, a local Anglican wrote, "William died a papist." Nor was only the government becoming severe. The Grocers' Guild in London, from which Campion received a regular stipend, invited him to preach in London in demonstration of his orthodoxy. He declined to submit his learning to the scrutiny of the grocers, and he lost that income. Gregory Martin, his closest colleague at Oxford for many years, had fled to the English College at Douai when the pressures against Catholics began to mount, and he now sent an invitation for Edmund to join him. St. Cuthbert Maine was another who flew to exile at this time. His conversion to the faith is usually credited to Martin and Campion. Although openly in sympathy with the Catholic cause, Campion was probably not yet received into the church, because by having become an Anglican deacon and having sworn the oath of supremacy, he had incurred an excommunication, which no one readily available would have had faculties to lift. He had contacts, important ones. He associated with Bishop Richard Cheney of nearby Gloucester, the first High Churchman, who was trying to maintain the delicate balance between Catholic belief and conformity to the Elizabethan settlement. But Campion discovered soon what High Anglican apologists have yet to concede, that it just will not work. The letter which Campion later wrote to the dignified and kindly old bishop might in truth be the kindest sort of words that could be addressed to High Anglicans and Episcopalians today. You are 60 years old, more or less, of uncertain health, of weakened body. The hatred of heretics, the pity of Catholics, the talk of the people, the sorrow of your friends, the joke of your enemies. against your conscience, you falsely usurp the name of bishop. By your silence, you advance a pestilential sect, which you love not, stricken with anathema. Cut off from the body, into which alone the graces of Christ flow. You are deprived of the benefit of all prayers, sacrifices, and sacraments. What do you think yourself to be? What do you expect? What is your life, wherein lies your hope? But it needed more than a gentle heart and pious disposition to make a Catholic in that age. Schnee died still undecided. He was succeeded first by a dunce, next by an absentee. The little work he had accomplished to preserve decency and toleration was quite undone. When Campion finally admitted that his faith required him to give up the Oxford that he loved, he first of all came for a while to Ireland, and only eventually went to the continent, where things began to unfold. We know how eventually he was captured after a long siege. Brother Little John was a great giant, a genius at constructing these priest hidey holes, so much so that probably a lot of them will never be discovered. And he was put to the rack no less than 3 times. And he himself admits that they thought that at the last bout they intended to kill him on the rack. On that instrument of torture, the body would actually be eventually suspended in the air. So atrocious was the pulling at either end. But he would not talk. He was part of a great underground, God's underground. And the Tower of London still stands, remembering the racking and the torture. And even the secret masses celebrated therein by limbs mantled and damaged in the manacles. This was Corpus Christi.